I was 11 years old and I was in a ballet class, and they said, "You will never be a ballerina because you are too fat. You're not going to get pregnant when you are so obese." At this point, I was a size 24, 26. So I had
Wow.
jumped up from a size 16. I was desperate for a baby, and they said the only way, they didn't mention diet, but they said the only way you can get pregnant is if you have bariatric surgery.
So you have to continually eat less and less and less, and then you end up like 400 calories, but then you stop losing weight because your body's just so malnourished.
I'm an emotional eater. I have a sugar addiction, and when I guess I had not been healed mentally enough, and when I fall off hard. And I have lost 160 pounds total, and I have been able to rewire how I think about food. I will be
Mhm.
able to keep this weight off completely naturally. And that's the goal.
Welcome to the Hot Takes and Hard Truths podcast, where we believe in unfiltered health, healing with real food, and unapologetic freedom that can only be achieved through the salvation of Jesus Christ. Your hosts, Jen and Nora, are close friends who found each other online despite the constant noise within the healthy living social media space. Their passion for natural health and Jesus, and their penchant to lean into the hard topics of the day, led them to want to share their thoughts and ideas with others who are also in search for meaning and answers. Please welcome your hosts, Jen and Nora.
Well, today we are going to be talking about your story. You want to
Yes.
introduce it a little bit? So this will be a little bit different than the Nora's story episode. We're going to dive in even deeper, right? And you want to
Yes.
go ahead and talk about it?
So this week is big for me. This is my 10th surgiversary, and I wanted to share my entire weight loss story because it all ties into hot takes and hard truths just about the standard American diet and Americans today if you don't know better. So, my story really starts when I was 3 months old. I was formula fed. My mom was unable to breastfeed me. And I found out recently that most formula has a very, very high sugar content. It is just completely ultra processed. So I
It's like
started.
main ingredient is like corn syrup, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the lactose, which breast milk does have, but it's naturally occurring. But this is sugar, corn syrup, and it's a chemical,
Yeah.
pretty much. It's a sugary chemical, and we are started with the blood sugar spikes at a young age.
Mhm.
So started with the formula at 3 months old, and then I was started on the cereals and even more processed foods as a toddler. I remember the Lucky Charms was my go-to breakfast. Lunch and dinner, my mom tried to cook at home, but it was a lot of potatoes, starches, the white carbs.
Hmm.
And I noticed even in kindergarten, I have pictures of me standing next to other kindergartners who are my friends, and I was considerably larger than everyone else.
Hmm.
And this was at what, 5 or 6 years old. Fast forward to 6th grade, I was still larger. I believe I was a size 12 by 6th grade. And kids would call me Thunder Thighs in the summer when I would wear shorts because my thighs shook. So the bullying started, the low confidence started then. And I had sports related asthma, so they called it. So I was exempt from gym, which is probably the worst thing possible. So I wasn't moving my body. And I was taking dance classes when I was younger. Once again, I was the chubby kid. And I remember, what was it? 11, I was 11 years old and I was in a ballet class. And they said, "You will never be a ballerina because you are too fat." So that was the first time I was told I had to step away from what I loved. So I pivoted over to ballroom dancing. I got introduced to swing dancing at age 12. That became my biggest passion ever.
Mhm.
I danced 5 nights a week, and I actually firmed up. So my body became very muscular, my legs were muscular, but I was still larger. I was not eating whole foods whatsoever. I was snacking nonstop. I was drinking, what was it? That Surge drink? Do you remember that green
Oh,
soda?
yeah. Yeah,
Whoa,
I used to do that all the time.
it was so yummy. But
Yeah.
looking back, we're just guzzling sugar.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure if I tasted that these days, I would, like, vomit. It
You
tastes
and me
like
both.
just artificial crap, yeah.
We would be sick for days. Okay, quick interruption because I need to say something before we go any further. I know the beginning of this episode starts off a little slow, but stay with me. I promise you're going to want to hear what I share at the end because it's something I've never talked about publicly before. This episode, it's not just about weight loss, it's about the hard truth behind why I still had cravings and never got to goal weight, even after having 80% of my stomach removed. It's about doing everything right and still feeling broken. So don't skip ahead, just hang with us because the real story, it's coming. So then, fast forward a few years, I'm still dancing like crazy. And the office manager of the dance studio where I was dancing pulled me aside. And she said, Nora, if you ever want to be serious about competing, we need to put you on a diet.
And how
So
old were you?
at this time, I was probably 16, 17 years old. And I was a
That's what it
size
was
12,
for
12,
years.
14.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a 12, 14. So not morbidly obese, but I wasn't a size 4, 6.
No, I was like a size 12. Right now, I'm like a 10, 12. That's my typical size. And I don't consider myself obese at all.
Not at all.
No. Dang.
Instead of listening to them and following their instructions, I wound up stepping away from dance a couple years later, went off to college, did the college stuff, stayed around a size 12, 14, and enter Bryce, my husband. I had slowly been gaining weight when I was going to sonography school, and I was a size 16 when I met Bryce. I weighed 240 pounds at age 25. And Bryce and I, neither of us grew up on whole foods or eating healthy, unfortunately. He had even topped out over 300 pounds right before we met, and he was on a health kick. Granted, that went out the window when we met, because what do you want to do when you meet someone and you're dating them? You want to impress them.
Mhm.
Well, that was our case. We went out
Mhm.
to eat twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day on the weekend,
Wow.
and it was not healthy at all.
Little foodie. You could have, if there was social media, I guess you could have made like your own little foodie page in a sense. All that
It was
stuff. Yeah.
So we would go on these little weekend getaways about a month into our relationship, and I remember planning everything around the restaurants. Not
Mm.
activities, but what food would we eat? What drinks would we drink? And of course, nothing was healthy. It was fried. It was good food. And we would order an appetizer, each of us an entree, and then a dessert for every meal. I can't even fathom the calories we were intaking.
Did you ever feel like overstuffed at all?
Yes, every time.
But you just kept going anyways.
Kept going. I never had a shut-off valve, ever.
So you could still keep eating. That's what I meant.
Oh,
Like you
yeah.
didn't feel full
I
where you were
never
like,
I
oh,
never
I
felt
can't.
full. I
Mm.
noticed, my stomach just kept growing and growing as the time would go on
Sure.
because our entire lives were revolving around food.
Hmm.
We got married a year into our relationship, and we immediately started trying to have a family. No luck. In 2015, I was 29 and a half, and the fertility doctors said, you're not going to get pregnant when you are so obese. At this point, I was a size 24, 26. So I had
Wow.
jumped up from a size 16 when I met Bryce. I weighed 260 pounds to a size 24, 26. I never got the total number at my highest weight, but it was over 300 pounds.
Wow.
So I was desperate for a baby. And they said the only way, they didn't mention diet, but they said the only way you can get pregnant is if you have bariatric surgery. Which one do you want? Now, at this point, I had zero confidence. I was working outpatient, eating my feelings, and I could not climb a flight of stairs. I couldn't function. So I did decide to go through bariatric surgery.
What year was that?
July 13th, 2015, I
Okay.
had I had the gastric sleeve. So exactly 10 years ago.
Okay. And then how much did you lose from that? What benefits and what negatives did you get from that?
I chose the gastric sleeve. They cut out 80% of your stomach. I chose that over the bypass due to I did not want to have the malabsorption issues. So people with the bypass, they're bypassing your stomach. So they're
Yeah.
missing all of the things that go on with the stomach. And they have a big issue with absorbing any nutrients. So I chose the sleeve for that reason. It was smooth sailing and the weight started falling off immediately. I did turn to those premier protein drinks because you have to prioritize protein. They don't discuss whole food proteins. They
It's
say
so wild.
any way you can get protein. So even after bariatric surgery, I was turning to these chocolate protein drinks. And then during the pureed stage, you're allowed to have sugar-free jello. What did I choose? Chocolate.
Yeah, of course.
So then the huge plus, there was a lot of pluses with my bariatric surgery. I didn't have any side effects that I knew of. The weight came off immediately. And within 45 days, I was allowed to start lifting again or start lifting. I never lifted really prior, but I hired a coach at the gym and I immediately started lifting 3 times a week.
Good for you.
So that was huge. I did give that up, unfortunately, within 6 months. Bryce did not want to join me on this weight loss journey.
Mhm.
So he was still bringing in the pizzas, the fast food, and I did not change my ways as much as I should have. I took a liking to the sugar bomb wines. I
Mhm.
formed a book club, which revolved around wine. So I was drinking a lot of my calories. I did lose 100 pounds in 9 months,
Wow.
despite not really making all those great changes.
I don't think I realized it was that much in that short period.
Oh, and if I had actually followed s- some kind of a diet and had eliminated processed foods and not started drinking the sugar wine, I can't imagine how much weight I would have lost. It would have
Yeah.
been astronomical.
Crazy. Wow. So 100 pounds. How far were you from your goal at that point?
I remember rejoicing when I got below 200 pounds. So that was
Hmm.
the 100-pound mark. And then it just stopped because you have a honeymoon period. That's what they call it. After bariatric surgery, you need to lose as much weight as humanly possible because then your body adjusts to the bariatric surgery and it's so much more difficult to lose weight.
Yeah. It's the whole basal metabolic rate thing. You're eating less, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
your
all it
basal,
was.
yeah, no matter what people say, you hear around calories don't matter everywhere, but there is to a point that it does. That's the whole reason these things work, right? Like
Correct.
bariatric surgery, because you're eating less, so you're losing more weight. But the downfall is then your basal metabolic rate decreases, so you have to continually eat less and less and less, and then you end up like 400 calories, but then you stop losing weight because your body's just so malnourished. So what did you do next after this?
So, I mean, and yes, that's calories matter, and that is what I have learned this entire journey. So I went from what, probably 4,000 calories a day, maybe, I would guess. And then I just reduced that by probably a quarter. And that's
Mhm.
how I was able to lose the weight. So I stayed at around 190 to 200 pounds. And then, what was it? I started playing with the keto diet in 2017 because we still hadn't successfully gotten pregnant. Bryce also, he decided to join me on this weight loss journey finally 2 years later. And he had bariatric surgery in March 2017. So that's when my true health journey really, really started. We built a home gym. We stopped going out to eat. We started, what was it, HelloFresh?
Mhm.
So we started HelloFresh
Oh,
and started cooking more at home, started going to some farmers markets. I said I was keto, but I think I was really just cutting out more processed foods.
that's how I was at first, yeah.
I don't think I knew what keto really involved, but I like to say I was keto. But I was really just cooking more at home and cutting out some processed foods.
That's funny.
So we built a home gym and we started lifting every morning at 5 a.m. And that was just game changing for our marriage, for our health. We renewed our vows that October and we went on a Hawaiian trip and we focused it around hiking. It was our first trip that wasn't just solely about food. Granted, we were still indulging in some alcoholic beverages more than we should, but we were finally getting active.
Mhm.
So enter 2020, I did drop about 10 pounds or so eating that way. So I was down
Okay.
to about 185 or so,
Getting there.
185, 190.
Yeah.
Enter 2020,
Oh boy,
our,
here we go.
oh yeah, this is when most people know about my journey and how it started.
Yeah.
I had the failed IVF treatment and I was at a loss. So Dr. Kiltz suggested the carnivore diet. Now, 2020, we know the world locked down and we were all staying home. So it was very easy for me to transition to just all animal products. We had a lot of fun. We couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Invested in a pellet smoker, played around with barbecue. We love barbecue. And I dropped another 35 pounds from February until September.
Wow. Just doing carnivore.
Just carnivore.
Were you
I
still
s-
doing the alcohol at times? No,
if
just to be honest, so people
yes.
know, like
So
it's not
I'm
like
going to
a
be
guilt trip to you.
so
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. Yes. So I did get off of all sugary stuff and I
Mhm.
allowed some dry red wine.
The reason I ask this though is okay, don't be embarrassed. First of all, I
I need to
ask
get over
because yeah, it's more of a realistic, like a reality check, I mean, to people, because some people feel they can't be perfect at any certain particular way of eating. But my thing is to prove to them, like, okay, you did carnivore, but you still had alcohol and you lost 35 pounds
yes.
beyond what you've already lost. That's my point in asking
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
right?
No, that's
So,
thank you for bringing it up. Yeah.
yeah, so sometimes you don't have to be 100%. Like with my clients, I talk about the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you do the best you can, and 20% you let yourself live. I mean, obviously, if you can do 100, fantastic, but the stress of it can be counterproductive. So that's where I was going at that. Not to be like,
No, and
Nora, you didn't do it right. Like, I'm not that person.
I think the key to what you just said is stress. I had
Yeah.
zero stress. I had fun. For the first
Yeah.
time, we played with recipes. We were forced to do date nights at home. I didn't count calories. I didn't count fat. I didn't count protein. I just ate until I was full, which I noticed I got fuller a lot faster with an all meat diet. And then I would allow my dry red wine. I can't tell you how many nights I drank. I probably drank 3 nights a week, maybe 4. And it wasn't an abundance. It was one glass. I enjoyed one glass while I was cooking my
Mm-hmm.
meat. I didn't stress about it. We were taking walks
Mm-hmm.
nonstop. We found all these hiking trails around our area. So I was walking. I was still relaxed with my wine. I was cooking at home. I was sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the pandemic mess, I was fine. I was enjoying my job. I didn't have a bunch of stressors.
Yeah.
Enter in.
You were in, so keeping on the track of the weight loss, you were down to like 165-ish?
I actually, the lowest number I hit, it was mid-September. I can still see it because I took a picture that day. I was so excited. I hit 159.
Okay. On carnivore.
159.
With wine.
159 with carnivore, September 2020. And that is the
Okay.
lowest I got with carnivore.
Okay. Next step. What happened after that?
Stress
Of the
20
pandemic.
of the pandemic and just life. We were starting more fertility treatment in 2021, and I added back in carbs. They were not whole carbs, and I started snacking.
This is
Uh,
the key right there. So you added carbs in, but they weren't real food carbs.
no,
That's the key people need to hear right there.
correct.
Just emphasizing. Okay.
Yes,
That it's
yes,
not carbs that are the problem.
no.
It's the type of carbs,
It was the
which
processed
we will
food.
be talking about this on our next episode. So go ahead.
Yes, yes.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm being honest. I emotionally ate again, and I loved carnivore. I loved how I felt on it, but I could not sustain it when life happened. I
Yep.
couldn't.
I hear you.
And I turned to the bad stuff and I slowly started gaining the weight again. Granted, I was also injecting more hormones and putting all of this medication in my body at that time,
Trying to get pregnant.
trying to get pregnant. We went through
Yeah.
more IVF in 2021, a couple more rounds, which failed. And I would ebb and flow. I would do carnivore for a couple weeks, get off again because of my emotions. Bryce and I did go strict in 2023 for 6 months. We stopped drinking and we both went very hardcore animal based.
Yeah.
I had crept up again another 20 pounds, and then I lost maybe 15 of that in that 6 months,
Okay.
but I never got back down to 159. I
Mm.
was hovering maybe upper 160s.
Okay, this might be a question you didn't know was coming, but what is the root issue there? You said it was stress, right?
Mhm.
So you're committing to a certain diet to try and lose weight.
Yes.
But what was it? This is my question I'm trying to get at. What was it that was stopping you from sticking to it since it seemed to be working? Like you went animal based and then you started losing the weight. You were carnivore, you were losing the weight. What was stopping you from continuing it?
I'm an emotional eater. I have a sugar addiction, and I guess I had not been healed mentally enough. And when I fall off hard.
Yeah. But
And
you've done like a lot of work trying to heal that mental aspect. It's not just
yes,
like you're negating it. You've tried going to counseling, or you did go to counseling, not just
yes,
try. You went for years and you've
yes.
done as much as you can to heal that mental aspect, correct? Okay.
For
Good
me,
for you.
at that point, it was an all or nothing mentality. So if I'm not strict carnivore, I'm nothing. And I felt like a failure. It had nothing to do with the community and, social media and whatnot. It was just all in my head. It was, well, you failed because you got off of it. So what's the point?
Which then
And
there's a lot of times people like that, because I come across that all the time. there's some underlying childhood lie that has been spoken to you, and therefore you repeat it to yourself over and over and over. And that's the hard one to find and to speak truth to. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's some deeper root issues there.
Yeah. Which it takes a lot of work to
Yeah.
fix.
And I honestly didn't know how to eat, Jen. Whole Foods was not a thing. It was not prioritized. Health was not prioritized growing up for either Bryce or
Right.
I.
Yeah.
And so we were just flying blind. And
Right.
then throw in the stress of life and then throw in a 3-hour commute to DC every day. I just couldn't. I just couldn't as much as I wanted to.
Yeah. So, what was the next step?
So I've used a lot of tools. I did try the lion diet, and that was in summer 2023. And even then, I could not get more weight off.
Mm.
Crazy enough. So the lion diet is the beef, salt, and water. I
Yeah.
stuck to it. I was going through some new treatment. I was working with a new coach, and she said, "Go all in, try this lion diet." So I did what she said, and I didn't have any success. Fast forward a few more months, I was going through.
Wait. You restricted more and didn't have more success? Sorry.
Nope.
Okay, go ahead.
I carnivored harder. I did it. I carnivored harder. And I was not seeing. Now the thing I did notice, I upped my butter. I was eating grass-fed butter like crazy, and my sex hormones increased with that.
Oh, that's good.
So I upped my fat, and that helped. Sleep was still not happening. Bowel movement still wasn't happening
Even
daily.
with higher fat.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
even
so
with
it's
all
not.
the supplements I was on.
There you go. Okay.
Fast forward to that winter, and I was starting the SIRS treatment. And I never really put two and two together. The SIRS treatment had me very depressed and not hungry
Mm.
at all. I know I was not eating more than 1,000 calories at this point.
Wow. So you've gone from 4,000 down to less than 1,000.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was very sick while I was doing the binders for SIRS treatment, and I did drop some more weight.
And anybody that doesn't know what SIRS is, it's chronic inflammatory response syndrome. It's basically mold toxicity.
Yes. So that was short-lived because I only could last 2 months on that SIRS treatment before I absolutely went mad and was getting worse and worse by the day. So I still never got back down to 159. So we're at year 2024, and I am still getting on carnivore, getting off carnivore, getting on, off. It's just a yo-yo nonstop because I couldn't avoid my emotions. I wound up having my 4th miscarriage in August of 2024, and I spiraled down. My weight was going up again, and I was back up to upper 170s, almost 180. And my friend reached out to me and said, "Nora, I started something and I've been successful. I know you struggle with fertility problems. I know about your autoimmune conditions, and you haven't gotten to your goal." So I wound up going through yet another miscarriage around Christmas,
I
and
remember that.
I started, in my mind, home baked goodies are better than store-bought goodies, which I think they are. You know what's going into these goodies,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Christmas time, so I was baking all of the Christmas cookies and housing all of the Christmas cookies during my miscarriage and just eating my emotions, and I finally said, "Okay, something's gotta change." Enter in GLP-1s.
There you go.
The final tool in my toolbox. I This is what my friend had brought up. She had wild success despite carnivoring harder, doing the supplements, doing all the things. And I watched Dr. Tina Moore's mini
The,
podcast or school
the
about,
GLP-1 one. Yeah.
yes, it's a series because I was strictly against them. I said, there's no way in heck that stuff's going in my body. I knew nothing about them. I just heard about Ozempic everywhere. Everyone's talking
Yeah.
about Ozempic. My patients were on Ozempic. They were losing massive amounts of weight. And I said, that's wrong. No, you're not doing it right. I said, why would I do that? But then Dr. Tina Moore talked about microdosing, protein first, and strength training. And I was in such a bad space in December. I said, okay, we're going to give this a try because I'm just spiraling and I need help. I started at a very, very low dose. And that week alone, I dropped 8 pounds of inflammation.
Wow. Just inflammation, not even
Just
the body.
inflammation.
So that goes
I
to show you, GLP-1 is not just a weight loss drug. And we're going to have an episode all about this stuff coming up next month, bringing in a professional doctor. So we'll be able to dive into the nuances of microdosing, low dosing, pharmaceutical dosing, what happens, muscle loss, all of that we will be discussing in a future episode.
Yes. But I stuck to protein first. I was able to get rid of all food noise. Food noise dropped that day. I had no more sugar cravings at a seriously low dose. I've never increased my dose. I have kept it at the same, and I've even gone down, and I've even decreased the amount of times I use this. And I dropped over 30 pounds in 3 months.
Which is huge. Like, I normally don't see more than more than like 8 pounds at the max a month, especially when you're so close to your goal. But it wasn't all fat. And anytime people lose weight, people don't realize this. They say when you're on these GLP-1 agonists that you're losing muscle mass. Well, anytime you lose weight, you're going to lose some muscle mass, just a little bit. But when you do protein and weightlifting, you're able to curb that more so. And that's what you were doing. So you were taking natural methods to mitigate away from negative side effects.
Yes. So finding out that early on formula can deplete the GLP-1 receptors in your gut because you're being fed all of this sugar constantly. Your body's constantly craving the sugar. The ultra processed foods depletes your GLP-1 receptors.
Mm-hmm.
Glyphosate that's sprayed over all of our vegetables and fruits depletes your GLP-1. So this has been a problem since we are toddlers. And maybe that's how I responded so quickly to this because I was significantly depleted from the standard American diet.
And there you have it.
Yes. So I was able to get to goal, and I have lost 160 pounds total. And I have been able to rewire how I think about food. I have been able to introduce berries and some vegetables along with prioritizing protein first.
So all this to say, GLP-1s are not the only answer. Bariatric is not the only answer. Carnivore is not the only answer. If you listen to our last episode, we were talking about the toolbox, right? Things that you learn of what can help. And I'm assuming you don't regret anything that you've done in the past necessarily because they've all brought you closer to that goal. It's just that wasn't the only tool that you should have needed. And for you, continually learning and educating yourself about all things health, you took the chance and you did GLP-1 and found huge success. And it's been incredible, like learning more about it from you. Like we have all these discussions because I've been curious and I've watched Dr. Tina Moore as well. And I'm all for these in certain cases. I don't think everyone needs them. I don't think it should be the first tool.
No.
But in cases like yours where it helped inflammation and therefore your body let go of the inflammation and let go of the leftover weight.
Yes. And this is not a lifelong thing whatsoever. I know that once I cut back with work even more in August, my goal is to completely be off of these by this fall. And
Oh,
I will
that'll be
have,
interesting to
thanks
see.
to my healthy relationship with food now, reducing stress, which causes inflammation, getting my body out, walking more, fixing my circadian rhythm, I will be
Mhm.
able to keep this weight off completely naturally. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
But
And there
this,
are a lot of people that do that.
yes, but this
Only
GLP-1,
some
I'm so grateful it allowed me to get some confidence back, and I think that is worth its weight in gold.
100%. Yeah. And I really wish we had more time to keep going and discuss some of, because I know people are wondering, like, well, what about the muscle loss? What about the thyroid cancer? What about, there's pancreatitis? There's all these things that is out there, and that's all you hear when you hear Ozempic. But that's what this future episode is going to be about. We have a wonderful doctor, naturopathic doctor, that's going to be coming on and discussing it. She's been doing this for years, longer than it's been popular. So she's going to dive into all that science for you guys.
And just one more thing, I am taking a compounded GLP-1. I am not on the Ozempic. I am on the dual agonist tirzepatide, which is known for minimal muscle loss and actually its healing benefits. So I went the compounded route.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, I feel like, because the pharmaceutical ones, it's just, you can't control the dose. This one, you can control it. So,
yes.
All right. It was great hearing your story, and I hope that we can hear more in the future and see. We'll do an update episode to see, especially once you start titrating down, how things are going.
All righty. Thank you for joining everyone today.
Yeah.